So, India recently undertook one of its biggest economic shakeups in a very long time, completely rewriting its rules on labor. It's this massive move designed to simplify what was, let's be honest, a tangled mess of old laws and build a workforce for the modern age. So, what exactly did they change? And, why should we care?
But okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the reform, let's talk about the timing. Why now? Well, take a look at this. India's unemployment rate has seen a really incredible drop, falling from 6% down to just 3.2% in only 6 years. This kind of positive trend created really the perfect moment to ask a big question. Could we unlock even more growth by modernizing our super complex labor laws?
And the vision behind this whole thing, it's ambitious, to say the least. This isn't just about administrative housekeeping. The goal is framed as a fundamental piece of building a more prosperous, a more self-reliant nation. The core idea is that if you empower the workforce, you empower the entire country. So, with that big goal in mind, what was the specific problem the government was really trying to solve? Well, it all started with this incredibly tangled web of old regulations.
You can pretty much sum up the problem with just one number: 29. That's how many different central labor laws businesses and workers had to deal with. It was just a recipe for confusion and complexity. And this created some very, very real challenges. You can just imagine the result: a mountain of paperwork for businesses, a total headache. For the authorities, trying to enforce all these rules was like navigating a maze of red tape. And maybe most importantly, a lot of these laws were basically relics, totally out of step with the economy of today.
Okay, so that was the problem. Now let's turn to the solution, which you could really call a great consolidation.
So, how do you fix a system that's so tangled and, frankly, outdated? How do you bring clarity to that kind of legal chaos? Well, the solution was pretty radical in its simplicity. The government took all 29 of those old, often overlapping laws and collapsed them into just 4 new, comprehensive codes. Going from 29 down to 4, that is the absolute heart of this entire reform. And here they are, the 4 new pillars of India's labor system. First, you've got a code on wages. Simple enough. Second, one for industrial relations. Third, a single, unified code for social security. And finally, a code that covers occupational safety, health, and working conditions. Everything now fits neatly under one of these 4 umbrellas. All right, so we have the new 4-part structure, but what do these changes actually mean in the real world for both employees and employers? Let's break it down.
Okay, this is a huge one. One of the biggest changes is a massive expansion of rights for workers. Under the old system, that safety net of a minimum wage only covered about 30% of the workforce. Now that net has been cast over everyone. The right to a minimum wage is now universal. It's a legal right for every single employee, whether you're in a massive factory or a small local shop.
The new laws are also finally catching up to the 21st century economy. For the first time ever, they officially define gig and platform workers. We're talking about your app-based delivery driver, your freelance coder. This legal recognition is absolutely crucial because it's the first step needed to get Social Security benefits to this huge and growing part of the workforce.
And there are other real tangible benefits baked in too. Fixed-term employees can now get gratuity after just 1 year of service, not 5. Women can now work night shifts with their consent and safety measures in place, of course, which opens up more job opportunities. And in a very practical move, an accident you have while commuting to or from work is now considered an employment-related incident for compensation.
Now let's flip the coin and look at what this means for businesses. One of the most talked about changes is aimed at making it easier to do business. Before, a company with 100 or more workers needed government approval for layoffs. That threshold has now been raised to 300 workers. The idea is to give medium-sized companies more flexibility, though of course it's also sparked a lot of debate.
There's also this really interesting philosophical shift in how the rules are enforced. The role of the inspector is being totally reimagined. They are now officially called an inspector-cum-facilitator. So their main job is no longer just to penalize people, but to actually advise and guide businesses on how to comply with the law. It's a much more collaborative approach.
For businesses, really, the main theme is simplification across the board. Instead of juggling tons of different filings, there's now a single registration, a single license, and a single return. Many minor, first-time offenses have been decriminalized, shifting from potential jail time to just fines. Plus, there's a new reskilling fund paid for by employers to help laid-off workers learn new skills.
So when you pull all these individual pieces together, from gig workers to inspectors to single licenses. What's the big picture here? What is the ultimate end goal of all these reforms?
Well, the goals are truly transformative. It's all about aligning the laws with how we actually work today. It's about creating a real safety net that ensures wages, health, and social security for every single worker. And it's about making it so easy to comply with the rules that it actually encourages businesses to grow, which in turn creates more jobs for everyone.
And that brings us to the final, and really the most critical question. This huge simplification aims to create a labor market that's more efficient, fair, and ready for the future. But the real test, the ultimate test, is going to be this. Will it successfully strike that delicate balance between protecting workers and giving industry the flexibility it needs to thrive? That is the billion-person question that will be answered in the years to come.